today's webinar. Thank you all so much for joining today. We're delighted to bring you this webinar on CyberSentriq's Q2 product roadmap. Just before we get started, some brief housekeeping, then I'll hand over to Dan. So just for some general information, the webinar is being recorded and it will be sent out to you after the event, so feel free to share with your team. There'll be time for Q&A at the end, so feel free to ask questions throughout, and if we don't get to your question, we'll contact you directly. And we'll be doing a quick survey at the end, so we'd appreciate if you could take just a second to answer. And that's all from me. So I'm delighted to be joined here today with Head of Product, Dan Boddington. Dan, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks very much for having me, Treva.
No worries. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining and carving out some time on a Wednesday afternoon from wherever you're joining, whether it's the morning or the afternoon. As you can hear, I'm based over in the UK, and so we enjoyed some sunshine the other week, and now we're firmly back into typical English weather with lots of rain. But the good news is I've got some really exciting developments as part of the CyberSentriq roadmap that I'm going to take you through. So as Treva said, there's a Q&A. Feel free to pop the questions as they come into chat. I've got it open, so I'll try and adjust talk tracks as we go through to answer those questions, and if not, we'll circle back at the end and answer them all. But good, right? So what a quarter it's been, and we've got a whole host of lovely features we've released to the platform. What I'm going to first go through is the most recent releases that we've had. We've had a number of things that have been released, and sometimes we forget about all the goodies. So I thought I'd just share, recap really quickly what we've released in the last 3 or 4 months or so. So one of the bits of functionality we released really early on in Q1, actually it feels like a long time ago, sort of January, February time now, was quizzes and results in our SAT, our security awareness training tool. So this is just part of our development as we're pushing on one of a number of products, but our in-house, in-baked security awareness training. We've added the capabilities to see and view some of the quizzes and some of those results in that platform as well. And you'll see us continue to make some improvements to our security awareness training as we press on. Some other changes we made again earlier in Q1 was around our email history. So now administrators who are using our email security tools can see the full history of the email, what's been sent, what's been stopped, and what's been banned. And again, this will help you and your customers able to see what types of emails have been stopped, whether you release or allow them or block. And I'll talk a bit later on about how we're opening up that visibility in a safe and secure way to end users as well, so they can see things like their quarantined emails on the platforms. Good. Another change we made, and this time around the Microsoft 365 backup and recovery product, was around our onboarding capabilities. So we made some great changes here to really simplify and speed up that onboarding process. So speaking to a number of customers, a number of you over the course of a few weeks, you're telling us how actually it took quite a long time to go and get set up and get that initial backup up and running for your customers. And if you're onboarding 10, 12, 15, 20, 100 customers, that then just multiplies and gets longer and longer. So we've really taken a deep dive look at our onboarding tools for our 365 backup and recovery. We've allowed and kept lots of the functionality, so the ability to select specific accounts, but we've made some of the defaults around including all accounts much slicker, much smoother, and much more robust. And we've still got some great improvements to make along the way, and I'll share them with you in the upcoming section. Not only have we made changes to the 365 backup, but we've also made some changes to our email security onboarding as well. So this is a bit more of a recent addition for those who are using our Seg Gateway or our API-based email security. We've made some changes to how we can get that configuration set up. And instead of having to copy and paste and put configuration in via Azure, we've made it a real sort of one-click, two-click setup using our Microsoft 365 connection. So if you're enabling our email security for your customers, especially around our API-based solution, you'll be able to do that through the Microsoft Wizard and set it up really quickly, rather than it being a little bit more complicated than it has been traditionally. Just a point of note, similar to our 365 onboarding, for both of these, you'll need a global admin access administrator to do that. That allows us to stand up all the right permissions and allow us to give you really, really comprehensive coverage across those estates. And finally, probably our big one of early this year is our brand new NLP, our natural language processing detection engine for our API-based email security. So this is a huge change. And really the background for us here is email phishing is getting so sophisticated. It's never been easier in the history of mankind to generate like those really convincing emails, phishing attempts, scrape a little bit of information off LinkedIn, pair it up into something like ChatGPT or Anthropic or any other tools out there, and you can very quickly generate some very convincing email spear phishing attacks. What we've done here is enable our system to now start processing the natural language that users use on a typical day-to-day basis and spot when that changes or when that looks more like a phishing attempt. So a really good example is, as all of you, the ones that I've met, everybody calls me Dan. There's only two reasons why I get called Daniel. It's either I'm being told off by my mother or I'm receiving a spear phishing email. And so it's that type of natural language that we can spot in those emails that are different from norm, that can then allow us to add that extra layer of protection, quarantine those emails, ban those emails, do what we need to do to keep your customers and their users safe. It goes deeper than that. You can see things like if you're asking, finance team asking for urgency around an Amazon gift card or some of those typical threats, we can pick out that language as well as being used. It's atypical and different to what people have used historically in their normal communications with this person or other people in a similar department, and we can then start protecting and quarantining those emails. So it's an ever-evolving, ever-learning tool that is really powerful in keeping lockstep with the nature and sophistication of the attacks. So all enabled by default as part of being on our API-based solution. So if you've got our API-based solution, that's been rolling out over the last couple of months or so. And if you're not, reach out to your account manager and they can get you set up with the trial or get you on board with that more enhanced API-based email security solution. Good, so that concludes. That's just some of the goodies we've released in the last quarter or so. What I look at now is some of the upcoming changes we're making to the platform, some of the ones that are just on the horizon, some of the beta programs that are up and running, and then also some of the stuff that's a little bit further ahead, maybe towards the end of the year or after the summer. So a big one that's in development at the moment, we're working incredibly hard on this, and we're opening up an early access program any minute, is deep integrations with those PSA tools that I know our customers live and breathe in all the time. So just as a little bit of a headline, we'll be integrating with Autotask, ConnectWise, HaloPSA, Kaseya, and Syncro's tools as well as part of this. So you'll get access, whichever tool you use, you'll have that integration will be up and running as part of the integration. We'll start that as our our ticketing and alert system as an integration, and then we've got a really aggressive roadmap to go and extend that to things like billing and usage and all that great stuff to really help you guys as you're working in those PSA tools and not having to continually context switch. So again, we'll be opening up an early access program probably towards the end of this month, and we'll be reaching out to partners. If you want to get involved, chuck your name in somewhere, drop me an email, drop me a line, reach out to your account manager, and we can make sure you're on that list, and you can start getting stuck into that as soon as it becomes available on the early access. Good. So some of the other changes making on our 365 onboarding, as I said, we made some changes last quarter. We've got some more changes to make this even faster, even slicker, even more accurate. Is we'll be releasing our express onboarding services for our 365 backup and recovery tool. So today we've got a process where you're selecting Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint and Teams, as all individuals. We'll be launching and enhancing our express service that allow you just to simply point, shoot, click, select all accounts and get that backup up and running. And then again, that will really crush that onboarding time to getting your customers protected with our really powerful 365 solution faster than ever. So have a look out for that as that starts rolling out over the coming months. We've also got coming up over the next few weeks our restore for permissions in SharePoint and OneDrive. So we've already actually started rolling out our SharePoint permissions. So all of our partners should have received that. I think the last group of people who will be receiving our SharePoint permission recovery tools. But we're also working on OneDrive as well, and we're looking forward to having that towards the end of the summer as part of our 365 backup and recovery tool. And again, this will really help when it comes to recovering customers. If they've lost data in either SharePoint or OneDrive, you'll be able to have the ability to select, do I restore with permissions? Do I restore without permissions? Do I inherit, etc.? Do I recover shared links? And that means that when and if those recovery options do have to happen, those users can get back up and running safely and securely with all the correct permissions to all those files in SharePoint and OneDrive that they had previously. We've also been rolling out over the course of the last week or so our bring your own key vault solution. So this has actually been turned on for partners. If you're a partner on the backup and data protection platform, you'll be able to see this key management tool, and in the coming weeks we'll start turning that on and making that available to customers, to your customers. This gives you the ability to bring in either an Azure or AWS key vault to the solution, plug it in, and then that key vault will be used for storing the encryption keys. That means your customers can retain their entire data sovereignty over the solution. They can guarantee that only they have access to the data. And if at any point they want to revoke access to that key vault, it means we won't be able to do backups and we won't be able to do recoveries, and really giving that peace of mind around security of the solution. This also has another effect where you'll be able to export your encryption key or your root key for each company. And this means that in the case of a major DR scenario, so I'm thinking sort of Azure or Google Workspace or some of the other tools, Microsoft, having some outages where they can't access services, you'll actually be able to recover data directly from our storage platforms, bypassing anything in Azure to local devices. So in those major sort of more fundamental outages across the hyperscalers, which do happen from time to time, you have the ability, and your customers have the ability to recover data as well. Good, so looking forward a little bit further ahead with our 365 backup and recovery, we're making a huge number of changes under the hood to make this much faster, much more scalable, and much more robust for the coming years and future. The data on the platform's exploded over the last couple of months and years or so. We've seen more data being put on. It's a case of more MSPs, more partners who are using our platform, but also each individual user, SharePoint site, OneDrive is getting bigger by orders of magnitude. So we're making changes on the hood to make those backups faster, those recoveries faster, and make the platform overall more responsive and more robust as we grow into the future. A big change we've already made, and again we're rolling that out, is we are bringing instant or mailbox recovery to our instant data client. So historically, our instant data client has been great for OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams, and you've been able to recover a PST file for Exchange. We're launching this month, over the next couple of weeks, our PST recovery capabilities into our instant data. So for those customers who need to recover a mailbox, whether it's a tiny, only a couple of hundred megabytes, or whether it's 200, 250 gigs mailbox and beyond, with that archive mailbox in as well, you'll be able to perform that recovery locally, as well as our cloud backup, our cloud recovery, but that local recovery using our PST recovery tool baked into our instant data agent. So typically, mailboxes that are 40, 50 gigabytes, you should be able to recover that entire mailbox in under an hour. But there's also some other settings for ultra large mailboxes where you'll be able to chunk that up into smaller sizes and start loading those or start using them as well as the rest of the mailbox being recovered. So really, really powerful tool. Have a look out for that as we roll it out over the coming months. And that's just the first in a number of changes that we're making to our backup and recovery to make it faster, slicker, and much more responsive. Copied in almost into that, we are planning how we can improve some of the error messages that live in the platform. So from time to time with our 365 backup and recovery, as well as some other products, we can't or we're not able to back up all files. There's could be some restrictions, things like Microsoft might block some files if they think they're malware from us from backing them up, and there's not much we can do about that. From other times, it might be users who are accessing or reading or writing that file at a moment in time where it's been moved, and we do make attempts to re-attempt to back that up, but from time to time we're not able to. So we do surface those errors, and what we'll be doing is working much harder on what error we're surfacing in the application, and then what the action steps to go and resolve those. look out for that towards the end of summer, also early into the autumn this year. And shifting gears a bit away from 365 backup but into email archiving, we'll be launching over the next month or so a brand new administrative UI for the platform, as well as bringing things like SSO and OAuth into that platform. So today it's giving a huge uplift. There's lots more functionality and features to manage that email archiving real-time dashboards and metrics and things, as well as updating and improving the email security login around that platform. So have a look out for that. There are some changes that admins will need to make as a result of that change, but we're again really excited about that, and that paves the way to bring it together as one unified platform. So I mentioned earlier about our capabilities around history lists for administrators in our email security. Well, looking forward later in the year, we're still continuing to make changes around our email security solution, and this will be around things like personal quarantine reports and training progress. So end users are able to see into the platform where they state with their security awareness training, or what emails been quarantined and what actions they can take to release those emails. And so this will be a single unified pane of glass for them to then go and make those changes and do what they need to do with those emails. So look out for that towards the end of this year as we start baking that into our email security app, Seg Gateway, as well as our API-based email security. Copied and dovetailed into that is a bit of an admin functionality for us around our email security, which is our allow list exemption. So we're updating and enhancing those capabilities on our email security that allow administrators that granular access to allow some of those trusted senders who might get picked up in the spam and malware filters on the email security solution, as well as make sure those that are generally malicious are being blocked at root cause as well. So again, huge changes there, allowing for a much more granular level capabilities around that email security platform. And again, we're getting ready for our big launch this year, which is our unified email security. So today we have a gateway-based and API-based email security solution, and they work relatively independently to one another. The big effort that's been going in with the teams, and they're doing a fantastic job here, is building out a unified email security that takes all the great bits of our gateway-based solution, as well as our API capabilities, including the NLP I spoke about earlier, and baking them together into one really powerful unified email security solution for our customers and partners. And the reason really for this is, as I said at the very beginning, the attacks are getting way more sophisticated with things like LLMs and Gen AI can create some of these really advanced, really capable, really sophisticated email phishing campaigns on the fly. And so we've really got to help you guys out, update our solutions, and make sure we've got a powerful unified email security solution for the coming years. So we're preparing for our early access program at the moment. Again, we'll be reaching out to a couple of partners, and if you're interested, drop your name in the chat or drop me a line, or reach out to your account manager, and we'll be able to get you on that list for that unified email security solution. And then finally, the big one that we've actually started a lot of work already is our unified login and app switching. So this is taking our data protection platform, otherwise known as Red Store for those who've been around, and our email security platform, which is the old Titan platform, and we're merging them together in a really careful, considerate way to make sure we maintain all the capabilities and functionalities that exist in the platform, but also giving you as MSPs and your customers that single pane of glass. So there's a lot of work going under the hood, making sure security is our #1 priority here, as well as our user experience. You guys can still operate and use the platform as you need, but bringing those two platforms together gives you a real suite and a range of tools that you can use to protect your customers. That then bakes in sort of the foundational layer coupled with the PSA that allows us to do some other really great things. So we'll be bringing in that unified email security into the platform. You saw some of the changes we're making to email archiving. That'll be baked into the solution as well. And you'll be able to see us as we update and enhance some of the API connectors and capabilities through things like the PSA tooling. So I'm really excited about this. This will be that sort of unified platform that'll allow you guys to operate much more seamlessly and have much deeper integrations with the tooling that we're using day to day. Good. So that was a quick whistle-stop tour of all the great things we've launched in the first half of, or the first quarter of this year, I should say, and then all the great things we've got coming up over the next coming months, all the way from our data protection products, our email archiving, and through to our email security products. If we've got any questions, pop them in the chat. Feel free now, and we can answer them.
Thanks, Dan. That was great. Loads of exciting things to come and loads of change in the last year, which is great to see. Just while we're waiting for questions to come through, I might just tell everyone about the upcoming events we have. Just pop to the next slide. And we'll go back. So yeah, just as an FYI, we're heading to PAX 8 next week. Very excited, heading to Salt Lake City. So if you're attending that event, make sure you come over and say hello to us. Myself and Dan will be there. Very excited to go into that. Then we've got another webinar on the 17th of June as an education webinar on cyber resilience. And then on the start of July, we'll be heading to the Network Group Momentum event in Belfast. So if you're heading to any of those events, make sure you let us know. We'd love to see you there. And then questions. I've got a couple here, Dan. Let's see. Excuse me. So yeah, one of the questions I have here is how do we get on the early access programs? As you mentioned, you can reach out to your account manager, or I've put in a question at the end, and you can add in if you would like to enter the early access programs on there as well. Another question I have for you, Dan, is how is the pricing and licensing model based?
Cool. Yeah, so the pricing and licensing model is based on the 365 licenses for our bundles. So that's all the way from our Complete, Shield, Protect, Comply bundles are all based on the Microsoft 365 licenses that we can count in your customers' tenants. And then our 365 backup only, or our Restore bundle, that's our 365 backup and Entra ID backup, is based on our active license seat counts.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question here, Dan. What are the biggest security threats businesses should be preparing for in 2026?
Yeah, good. Very, very good question. So I think probably a number of people have seen things like Project Glasswing or Mythos from Anthropic team, and I know the OpenAI guys have got something on the roadmap as well. So I think these are opening up a whole range of security threats and poking holes in some very old code that's been kicking around. I think that's certainly one of the biggest changes, and one of the biggest pressures that are put in there is around patching, but we are also seeing a fundamental increase in email phishing attempts. And I go back to what I said earlier, it's never been easier in the history of humankind to generate a really convincing spear phishing email. Scraping a bit of information from something like LinkedIn or Facebook for those who are still using it, injecting it into an LLM, using a Claude skill, God forbid, and then drilling out lots of emails that are very curated and very targeted. And we're seeing a huge number of increases in that. Some real sophistication of attacks as well.
Cool. Another question I have here is, we've seen so much and hear so much about AI. So what role does AI play in CyberSentriq security solutions? And are there any AI-driven enhancements planned for the future?
Yeah, so yeah, good question. Always typically gets asked. So there's definitely a huge range of applications for AI, but I think we can sort of bucketize them into three elements of what we're doing at CyberSentriq. So number one is we are using some AI to help us with code generation and unit testing specifically. So we found it's actually really good at building out some unit testing, event telemetry, to help us when we ship code and we push it out to our customers and partners, so it's really robust and works really well. And there's a few other applications under the hood for that as well. We're using it for things like speeding up response times and changing the way to sort of write some content and copy, helping us with things like competitive analysis as well, especially the product group. And then finally, you saw it quite early on in the roadmap, that NLP detection we're baking into the product. So I think we're just being quite careful, consider about what we're deploying. Is it really generally adding value, or would a rules-based system work better? I don't think always AI is always a solution that's going to be optimum to start off with. And so things like our NLP detection is based on those AI solutions. Got a great question from Rob Stevenson in the chat, actually, which is, for SharePoint, can you recover just permissions, or is it date and permissions? So I think, well, maybe you mean data and permissions. So the SharePoint permissions, you're recovering the data either without the permission, or you're recovering the data with the permission. I don't think we've got the capability. I will go and check, Rob, and see if we can recover the data without permission, so you're just recovering the permission capabilities. It's an interesting one. I can now that you've asked, I see the use case. So let me find out, and I'll come back to you.
Great question. Another question we have here is about the prioritization. So how does CyberSentriq prioritize which features to develop next? Do customers have that input into the roadmap?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I think we wouldn't be here if we weren't building it for you guys, building the solutions that you guys need. So it'd be foolish if we didn't reach out to you and discuss with you. So I think there's a couple of different ways. So a great way is early access programs that can really help shape the life of the product as we go and build it out. But also our community space. So from those who came from Red Store side of the house, as it were, you may know of it called as Red Tribe. But for those not, we've got a community, CyberSentriq community. We're dropping ideas on that. Our design team, our engineers, reaching out, product owners, discussing with you guys what might work, what might not work, what's the optimal solution. And then good old, I know I can see a few people I've spoken to recently about a few developments, but reaching out and showing you what we've got, trying to understand problems in a bit more detail.
Great. Thanks, Dan. I think we'll wrap it up there. Give everyone their time back. So I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Really appreciate your time. It's great to have you here with us. And Dan, thank you so much for your time today. It was really insightful and great to see all the exciting things that's coming up in the business.
Cool. Well, thanks, Treva. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate it. Happy Wednesday afternoon.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone. See you in the next one.